ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant, joining you live from India's startup capital, Bangalore. And as always, we have a power-packed edition for you over the next 20 minutes. But first up, the headlines. Flipkart board member Subrata Mitra, also one of its earliest investors, has really talked down claims of a markdown, says markdowns really depend on who's looking at it. He says he's not worried as an investor. We have another investor on the show, tech czar Nandan Nilekani, who tells us what really excites him about startups and the themes that he looks at while investing in them. First of the budding stars on our show today, where we tell you all about Fortigo, which has managed to raise funding from both Accel and Nandan Nilekani. They are in a very unusual space, the long-distance trucking space. We tell you why the startup is exciting coming ahead. Another budding star on the show, Droom, which has raised Series B funding. We caught up with its founder, Sandeep Agarwal. And in the personal tech space, we caught up with Oneplus's India head. Oneplus opens a physical store and is also unfazed by Apple's plans to push refurbished phones in India. On to our top story then, where we caught up with Subrata Mitra, an investor at Accel, more importantly, one of the earliest investors in India's largest e-commerce player, Flipkart, and also a member of its board. We asked him about the spate of markdowns by mutual funds, listening to what he had to say about that, and also about whether deferred placements, deferred recruitments is going to hit the brand image of Flipkart going forward. Mitra, for now, seems unfazed.
I think long-distance trucking is actually a big opportunity, and it's rather disorganized. There is this effect of a two-sided network that can be brought in. And if you look at Uber as a company or Ola as a company which hardly owns any assets, so is there a similar kind of a play that can happen on the long-distance trucking side is what we are trying to achieve.
And is this the first such investment you're making in this space, or have there been others, and how is Fortigo going to be different?
So Fortigo is largely different because the way they were explaining that the network has a lot of internal pieces. So let's say the brokers, right? There could be a way of looking at it as saying that the brokers, we should either eliminate them or keep them, right? Mm-hmm. So depending on that, you'll have different kinds of solutions. In this case, Fortigo, we have decided to actually work with every part of the network and try to solve their problems. So that's why the solution will turn out to be different, and it has different kinds of complexities and all that. But hopefully that also means that you'll have a lot more network usage because you have a lot many more players inside it. So that's one. And I also believe that something like this in the future can get into from full truckload to sort of partial truckload kind of systems, and which is a very big opportunity as well.
Right. And, your investments coming at a time when, Series A has been going down. So what does this say about the overall funding environment that, there is still funding available, but for select ventures? How has it really changed compared to last year?
I mean, again, this is largely speculative, right? So we see that obviously a lot has changed. I guess we are all trying to look into the crystal ball and figure out what is the handful of things that we want to do. And clearly, there have been some new sectors that we have added in this new fund since last year. And logistics happens to be an important part of that, as is fintech. So these are the two new areas where we have made some investments.
What is your own sense of, the markdowns that we've seen from mutual funds? Is this something that we need to take seriously? Flipkart's founders itself, have said it's a theoretical exercise, but how serious is this?
Some of the public markets were marked down 40%, over the last same period of time. Nobody seems to be worried about that. So why this?
Okay, so it doesn't worry you as an investor?
Not at all.
Okay. But in terms of the overall perception, sir, last year consumer internet, Flipkart was perhaps the hottest thing everywhere, not just for investors, for employees. Now, with what's happening on campus, deferment of joining days, do you think the brand image could take a hit?
Startups go through their cycles, as much as large companies do. So, as a part of the environment, you have to bear with parts of that cycle as well.
The learnings here, both for entrepreneurs, for different players in the ecosystem.
It's still the very same, right? So you're trying to do the best you can with the resources that you have and move the company forward, right? So it doesn't matter whether it's consumer or B2B or whatever it is, and then there will be market cycles which are favorable and market cycles which are not going to be favorable.
From one investor to another, and we are of course talking about tech czar Nandan Nilekani, who has become increasingly active in the startup space over the last year. We caught up with him to really understand the themes he likes to invest in, the commonality among them, and the problems that he thinks startups should be solving in India. Listen in to what Nandan Nilekani has to say.
I look for original ideas and which solve some India-specific issues. Like Rail Yatri is a platform for rail consumers, and it gives them information on trains coming on time, and now they have a marketplace where they can buy when they reach the station. So I look for interesting things like that. Sedimac is a professor, Shashi at IIT Bombay, who's developed a world-class electronic ignition and system and so on. So if it sort of has an angle which I think is interesting. But I'm particularly interested in organizing unorganized sectors. India is a nation of unorganized operators. So
what other problems do you think startups really need to solve? Because you've often said that rather than looking at mental models of the West, we need to look at India-specific problems. What other areas do you really see?
For example, a big area is going to be organizing small retailers. Today you have large retail, which is Shoppers Stop and Reliance and those kind of companies, or you have e-commerce people like Amazon and Flipkart. But India is really a country of small retailers. So how do you organize them? That's also an interesting problem that's waiting to be solved.
Also, broadly talking about the startup space, we've seen some pessimism coming in terms of markdowns and, deferrals on campus. As someone who's really built a successful company through, so many cycles, what is your own assessment, and, how should entrepreneurs really be handling the current situation?
No, I think ultimately, you have to build a sustainable business model. You have to have a path to profitability. You need to, and I think that's some of the challenges that the business-to-consumer companies are facing now.
People expect UPI, banks to come on board with UPI, I think, by the end of June. Right. What opportunity do you think, that will throw up potential?
The UPI is going to start a revolution. Just yesterday, I was in Bombay doing a review at NPCI. We had a lot of banks. They're having a workshop on the 13th, and hopefully by the end of the month or early July, they will launch. So the fact that it will be the world's most sophisticated mobile payment system, it's completely interoperable. Any mobile app of any bank can do a debit to any other bank's account, even if the account is on some other bank. And it's going to go towards simplicity. It'll have Aadhaar authentication in the next 1 year, like the way Samsung has launched that thing. That is an assisted. That's for BCs, but tomorrow consumers can do it. So all these things are going to make a big difference.
From two investors to a budding star where these two investors have invested in. We are talking about Fortigo, a Bangalore-based startup in the long-distance trucking space. Now, they have raised funding from both Accel and Nandan Nilekani. We caught up with the founders to understand why the space is so important, how it's really different from other companies as far as the online logistics space is concerned, and what their moat is really going to be.
It solves the problems of the driver and the fleet owner, because they get business wherever they are without having to wait for it. And for the person who actually needs a truck, it provides them trucks and the visibility of its availability.
In terms of, how long you've worked on this and the network that you've scaled so far, give us a sense of that.
So we started working on the concept, I think, a little bit over a year ago. Maybe 14 months or so. But we really got into action in terms of development and deployment of technology around mid of next year, last year, around August is when we started. And here we are, ready to go.
Right. And in terms of, what your own moat is going to be, what would that be, considering there are a lot of interesting startups in the logistics space? How is Fortigo going to be different?
I thought we had covered it to a certain extent in the presentation, but we are trying to solve the problems for the entire ecosystem and each and every player there. Having said that, another part is also there, that the market is so huge, $300 billion. There's plenty of space for all those who are trying to work hard and make a living out of it.
And how are you really going to make money now? I mean, does it come out of each portion of the eco chain that you are connecting? How will it work?
So the technology and the platform is free. Okay, so we don't charge for the technology. So if you want to use the network, you use the network, you pay for it. You pay by the transaction. Only if you transact. All the other services on the platform are at no charge. So if you transact on the network, you pay a small fee, a fraction of what you would normally pay in a normal transaction.
Right, great. And finally, we've seen most startups, 90% of startup founders out of college in their 20s, early 30s. How difficult was it for you to start up all over again and also secure funding?
Actually, not very difficult, surprisingly, because there's a B2B space. In a B2B space, you need to have some gray hair or no hair at all, as you can see, and that we cover. And the rest of it is about doing things smart, because you've already seen enough of ups and downs, so that you know exactly what are the things not to do. It's not a space where you have to try whatever comes to your head. It's about putting a thought together, putting together a huge jigsaw puzzle of multiple ecosystem players, and then finding a solution with the correct partners. I'm not saying that we have found a solution which is perfect, but what we have ended up doing is to have orchestration of a set of persons who are completely committed to the space and who are committed to making it really move forward and solve the issues.
From one budding star to another, and we are talking about Droom, founded by Sandeep Agarwal, which raised a fresh round of funding today. Sandeep, in fact, joins us on ET Now Startup Central to really take us through that strategic announcement and what it will mean for Droom going forward. Sandeep, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now Startup Central. First up, really take us through this announcement, why it's important and strategic to Droom going forward.
See, so what we announced today is actually our, we have raised a Series B round of funding. This is actually our fourth round of capital, and in an environment where raising money has been very difficult for the companies, in my view, 6 to 8, for the last 6 to 8 months. Why it is important for us is because, we actually have been around for 17-18 months as a commercially available company, and we have grown very fast. We are currently doing around 1,000 crore rupees in annual gross revenue, and this funding helps us to strengthen our dominating position. We believe that out of the $125 billion automobile market in India, 0.3% is currently online, and we own roughly half of that, 50% of that. And with this money, we can further strengthen our dominating position in this category. And we feel in a long run, when automobile market can be roughly $20 billion market, let's say by 2020, we have opportunity to own 50 to 60% of that. And this capital only helps us to increase our likelihood of remain distant number one in the automobile market.
Right, some details that you can share on the quantum of the investment and also, the profile of investors that you've managed to attract as far as the Series B round of funding is concerned?
Sure. So, we actually, this is our fourth round of capital, Series B. We have done Seed 1 in May of 2014, then October 2014 we did Seed 2, and then June of last year, 2015, we did Series A. And we closed the Series B in May 2016. We actually are not announcing the exact quantum of the round, but what we are saying is that this round is significantly higher than the prior round, and the prior round we raised was close to 100 crore rupees. That was in June 2015. So we have some constraint, so we are not disclosing the exact amount, but it's significantly higher than the last round. And the investors who have led the round is BNext from Singapore. It's a venture capital firm. They are very prolific investors in India. And second investor we got this time is a company called Digital Garage based out of Tokyo in Japan. They are one of the oldest and one of the largest venture capital firm in Japan. So these are the two investors who led the round, but we got multiple new investors from Japan and China.
Right. Give us a few specifics in terms of, where the funds are going to be deployed.
So we will be actually, one thing as I mentioned earlier, we will be using this capital to further strengthen our dominating position in the online market for the automobile. Second is, Droom, we like to see Droom as an intellectual property, data science and engineering company. So we will be spending a lot of money building more tools, technology and platform. And third is we will be using this capital to expand internationally. So towards the end of this calendar year, we'll be expanding into Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam and Thailand. These are the 6 countries where we will expand after building some more tools and technologies.
Thank you so much for that, Sandeep, and perhaps we will catch up with you over the next few months to really find out how the Series B has really helped Droom scale. But with that, we come to the final big news story of the day, where we are talking to you about Oneplus, the Chinese mobile phone company that made waves in the last year thanks to the invites at Amazon. But it's really gone quiet in the last few months. We caught up with its India head Vikas Agarwal to really find out the road ahead for OnePlus, the way they are expanding offline, and also what Apple's refurbished phone move is going to be like. Of course, Apple's not got the go-ahead yet, but remember, OnePlus was largely seen as a cheaper version of Apple. Let's listen into what OnePlus's India head had to say to ET Now's Rahul Dalma.
The initial motivation to open service centers on our own was to provide a better experience for our users. We have been getting a lot of complaints from our users that the service centers are either located at a very remote location or they are not well maintained, they're too crowded, there are multiple other brands, the staff is not well behaved, it's very difficult to locate the address. So to address those kind of issues, we decided to open our own center.
You would continue to be an online-only channel. Would going forward, would these exclusive service centers also double up as an offline sales channel?
No, so we will continue to operate as an online-only brand. Offline centers will act as a service center and as an experience center for our products. However, people can actually buy from the service center by placing an order online, or they can buy select accessories offline at these stores itself. Okay.
Also, you have this exclusive partnership with Amazon. How has that really worked out? And, it's sort of a demand that you see for your offering. Would you also consider tying up with Flipkart, Snapdeal and the others to really make the best use of the online sales channel?
So, at least for OnePlus, I can confidently say the partnership with Amazon has worked really well. OnePlus was the first brand that launched exclusively on Amazon, and even till today it is exclusive on Amazon, wherein most other brands have now become non-exclusive.
And with that, we come to the final segment of the day, Number Crunch. And the number we are crunching for you today is $14,000. Believe it or not, that's the cost of an Android smartphone that's been launched by Solarin. Now, it's getting spammed a lot online because people can't really believe that, one would want to buy a phone at such a high price. But guess what? Solarin believes it has a solid market because it says that it has security features that will ensure maximum privacy, maximum protection from any kind of violation, and perhaps they are appealing to a set of people who place a premium on privacy, or in this case a $14,000 premium. I mean, that's humongous. One thing I can say that in a market like India, I really wonder how many takers Solarin is going to have. But with that, we come to the end of this edition of ET Now Startup Central. We certainly hope you enjoy the show and keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.